Again, welcome, and thank you for joining us. Let's get started. People will join as they do. I want to thank Robert. He is here supporting as my tech wizard. So thank you, Operator Robert, and thank you all for being present today. Let's begin.
Ever wish for a more personal way to reach your audience?
I wish there was a way I could
talk to him, Lou.
Shine, 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 shine on all of them. Shine on all of them. My homie said to shine your light, so shine on all of them. Climb, climb, climb. You were born to win. Don't let them make you colorblind and not adore your skin.
Hey look, we in the land of milk and honey, but ain't nothing sweet, these demons hungry. They go bananas for the money, but not me, I'm no circus monkey. It's crazy, it's crazy. No shaitan can drown us, we wavy. Too smooth to be fooled by fugazis. I guess that's all part of what made me shine, 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 shine. Shine on all of them. Shine on all of them. My Umi said to shine your light, so shine on all of them. Everybody say, climb, 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 climb. You were born to win. You were born to win. Don't let them make you colorblind and not adore your skin. Hey look, I seen so many come and go. It's hard to get change when you're broke. My only goal while on the globe is not to let my soul corrode. The world can be toxic, especially when your skin look like chocolate. Be careful, all branches ain't olive. And look towards the sun for your solace. And shine, 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 shine on all of them. Shine on all of them. My homie said to shine your light, so shine on all of them. Climb, 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 climb. You were born to win. You were born to win. Don't let them make you colorblind and not adore your skin. Hey, look, shine, 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 shine on all of them. Shine on all of them. My Umi said to shine your light, so shine on all of them. Climb, 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 climb. You were born to win. You were born to win. Don't let them make you colorblind and not adore your skin. Come on, hey look, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. I said this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. If you feel me, say this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Again, I said let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Yeah. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everybody say, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Talk to him, Lou.
Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, shine. Let it shine, let it shine.
Talk to him, Dave.
Shine, 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 shine. Shine, 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 shine.
Yeah.
Shine, 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 shine. Shine, shine. Shine, 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 shine. Shine, 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 shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Talk to him, talk to him.
Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Yeah.
Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Last time, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
I want to welcome you all again and thank the Forum Diversity Conference for having me today. Before moving forward, I acknowledge the indigenous people, tribes, and lives that exist today on what is referred to as the United States. I acknowledge the unceded lands and broken treaties that have gravely harmed my people. I acknowledge that in Chicago alone, there are over 65,000 indigenous people. So today, you're going to learn a little bit about me. I will share my brief presentation about DEI, and then we're going to get into what I'm referring to as action rooms or breakout rooms. You'll have opportunity to take some notes, and I want you to journal through because there might be some questions that I'm asking you, and I want you to be able to answer because I will ask for your proud participation. And then at the end, if there's any questions, comments, concerns, then we'll have a little bit of time at the end to discuss some things further. Again, good afternoon. My name is Brian Williams. My pronouns are he, him. I'm the great-great-grandson of a Catawba indigenous person. I am the son of a mother from the West Indies and a father from Flatbush, Brooklyn. I am the spouse of a Mexican-American woman. I am the father of a Black male. I come to you ready and prepared to share my perspective of the end game of equity and inclusion work. I believe that we will be closer to the goals of everyone feeling seen and having a voice, being at the table to contribute, treating each other with equity. They need to be successful. Providing equality and opportunity, supporting diversity in all of its forms when we are in just authentic relationship. This relationship is possible when we create an environment when each person can be their full self. I have nearly 20 years of equity and inclusion work in direct service, professional development training, consultation, coaching, and supervision. I've earned my master's in nonprofit administration from North Park University, my bachelor's in sociology and business at Northeastern Illinois University. I'm the founder and board member of Skokie United, a nonprofit in Skokie, Illinois. I am the husband, father, son, brother, godfather, and uncle. I'm a passionate individual who identifies as African, Caribbean, indigenous. Working as a direct service worker, I learned more about myself in my service to others. I partnered, I was not a savior. I learned that words matter. This work was critical. I needed to develop relationships with everyone to achieve our mission. It was a critical aspect of our work. So I'm going to share some resources for you all. And I would actually like for you to take a moment and read this brief article. It's a Forbes article, and it is about authentic relationships at work. So you'll see that there will be the start with the right intent, then ask questions that build positive energy, and then be mindful of labels. Listen with full attention and be willing to be vulnerable. So please take a few minutes and read this article. When we come back from reading this article, I'm going to ask you what came up for you. So while you're reading this article, take a few notes. Think about what's challenging you. Think about what's like, yeah, that's something I feel, I believe. Think about how it seems pretty much practical or impractical to you. Please begin. Thank you all. So before we move forward, I want to take a moment to just do a quick introduction. I want you to go around the room and say two things: your name, where you're from, and then we're going to come back together. So let me stop this share for a second so that we can come together as a larger group. All right, I'm going to start to the person to my left, and that's Michael. So Michael, and again, just after you go, so 3 things, I guess: your name, where you're from, and then I want you to send it to somebody else. So until everyone goes. So that means everyone's paying attention, right? All right, go right ahead, Michael.
That sounds good. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Glassby. I'm from the Severn School in Severna Park, Maryland, which is in between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, Maryland. What was the second? Was there a second question, or did I miss anything?
No, and
Was
you,
it?
you
All right,
said
perfect.
who you are, you said where you are, and you can just pass it to someone else.
All right, sounds good.
Thank
Sorry
you so
for
much.
holding up the group. I'll pass it to Jennifer.
Hi, everyone. Oh, are you feeling Jennifer? Sorry, you go.
How about Jennifer Martin?
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm in Florida, but I just got, well, not, I didn't just return from overseas, but I was teaching overseas for well over a decade, and I'm teaching virtually, and I'm doing consulting work at the moment. I will move on to Daria.
Hey everybody, I'm Daria, and I am currently in Northern New Hampshire teaching at the White Mountain School. And I will pass on to the other Jennifer.
Hi, sorry. Sometimes I go by Jen, sometimes Jennifer. I can't remember what I put on here. My name is Jen Welch. I work at Thayer Academy, and I am right outside of Boston. I'm going to throw it over to Elizabeth.
Hi, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Guillory, and I work at Convent of the Sacred Heart in New York, which is a sister school of Bryan's School in Chicago.
Elizabeth, who would you like to throw it to? And welcome.
Thank you. Let's see. I'm trying to scroll through, make sure I have everybody. I'm going to throw it over to Tia.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tia Gary. I am in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is outside of Boston, and I am at Fairweather Street School. And I will pass it to, is it Arliss?
Hello, everyone. My name is Arliss Astudillo, and I am at the Foreman School in Litchfield, Connecticut, a boarding school for students with learning differences. And I'll pass it on to Margaret.
Hi, everyone. I'm Margaret. I am in Boston, and I am tutoring from home this year, but I was teaching at Meadowbrook last year in Weston after being overseas also.
And who would you like to pass it to?
Oh my gosh, sorry. Also, I did want to shout out to Sacred Heart and Lady Gaga at the inauguration. That was amazing. I will throw it to Samantha.
Hey, my name is Samantha. I go by Sam, and my current location is in Vero Beach, Florida, but I am moving to another school in Raleigh, North Carolina. Current school is St. Edward's School, which is a really small Episcopal-based school, and then I'm moving to Ravenscroft School starting next year. So I will pass it to Aviel. I think I got that right, maybe. So you could correct me.
Yes, thank you. Hi, I'm Aviel Valenzuela. I'm from Nicaragua. I'm also working from home this year, and I'm connecting from Natick, Massachusetts. And I will pass it on to Tabitha.
Okay, hello, thank you. I am temporarily in Virginia. I returned last year from teaching overseas as well. So a little bit in flux. And I am trying to remember who hasn't spoken yet. Johanna?
Hello, I'm Johanna. I was at the Taft School in Connecticut for a while, and I took the year off of teaching this year to move back to Southern California. So that's where I am now. And I think, unless Robert wants to go, PD up should be the last one.
Yes, hi. Hi, I'm Penda, originally from Senegal, West Africa. I'm currently in North Carolina, and I teach French at Child Country Day.
Thank you. Robert, I don't want to speak for you, but again, Robert's our operator. He's the behind the scenes man, and I appreciate him for taking care of everything. So thank you, Robert.
Very
All right,
well.
everybody. Let's,
Everyone.
thank you, Robert. Let's jump back in. So you had a chance to review the article, and I'm just curious, what came up for you in this article? You know, we're going to popcorn really quickly and keep moving forward in this presentation. What came up? So you read this article about authentic relationships at work. And I shared some of the key aspects. AVL, is it? I see your mute went
Yes.
off right away, so please jump in.
No, I think that the first thing that I thought of was I worked in boarding schools before, and as we know, these are white spaces, and the first thing that came up to me were moments when I realized that there was social isolation for people of color who work there. So there were like social gatherings and it just always happens that people of color tend to not get invited as naturally as other people would. So that's the first thing that came up when I was reading the first paragraph of the reading.
And that first one is start with the right intent. Who else had a thought about that? Jump right in, please. Go right ahead, Margaret.
I was thinking about the comment in there about trust and being your authentic self in terms of what Rodney Glasgow said when we were in our very first session. Words that really stuck with me. And I was just thinking so much, also I just watched the inauguration. So much of like what creates unity, what creates a space is making sure people feel represented and seen and heard. And so like Aviel, to what you're saying, like if you feel like if there's not this trust and synergy, I guess, for lack of a better word, it's hard to not be reserving something back all the time. That makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Margaret. Other thoughts? Jennifer, Martin.
I think just being yourself and just showing a genuine interest in others as opposed to showing like small talk. I think, what I got out of the article is people pick that up. I know for sure my students do, and that it's contagious. If you're really deeply interested in someone, it will bounce off a bit. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Go ahead, Michael.
I would just say just the opportunities that sometimes get passed by. A lot of times, we kind of cross paths or people cross paths, or, you have someone that's in your classroom or someone that you're working with, and it kind of stays very surface level. And there's so many opportunities to really get to know whether that be your colleagues or whether that be students that you're interacting with and working with, and just being able to make that time and not allow those opportunities to go to waste.
Thank you, Michael. Jen.
I was thinking about listening with full attention, and how often I tend to not do that sometimes because we're so distracted by phones and other things going on in our lives, especially right now when we're not having like human interactions with people and seeing them face to face. We have to be more mindful about staying focused on the conversation and like really listening with intent, as opposed to letting other things distract you.
Thank you, Jen. Tabitha.
Yeah, it's fairly similar. Actually, I was just thinking of my own experience teaching overseas and how important it was for me to listen to the students and also to avoid that labeling. I definitely went in with some sort of cultural assumptions. And I thought I was all sort of, open-minded and liberal and, everything. And then it turned out that I was kind of, orientalizing a little bit. So I really had to step back and, stop making assumptions and labeling and really listening to what the students were saying.
Thank you. I want to take a quick moment and thank the people who joined us. So what came up for me, what stood out for me in this article is that this article talks about the end game of DEI and how it was a positive impact on our brain, our mental health, and our physical health. I could pull out how important this is specifically for people who have died due to the mental and physical stresses of racism. But this article also, Authentic Relationship, is about supporting and being one's full self in every environment one is in, creating space so people of different races, ethnicities, cultures, genders, and religions can present as their full self. And the thing that I also find interesting about this article is that not one point does it mention DEI. And part of this conversation today is about how DEI is foundational. And I believe how DEI becomes foundational is that when we form relationships, we really strive to form authentic, deep relationships and not surface level relationships, which I feel someone may have made kind of a comment to, is maybe it was Jen talking about listening deeply, really listening with full intention, having the right intent. So these 5 things stood out for me. And I usually don't pull articles out of Forbes all the time, but when I saw this, I thought there's 2 interesting things about it that I just named. It doesn't even talk specifically about DEI. Yet, it still moves to an understanding that people impacted by this likely and could strongly be those who are the most marginalized if everyone is doing this work. And that mental health piece is extremely real. That physical health piece is extremely real. I was going to share another article with you about how racism actually kills people. And I'm talking about with your physical health, not with white supremacists or things of that nature. I'm talking about with physical health, the changes that racism inflicts on people. And I'm sorry I don't have that article for you, but I recommend you looking it up because there's been a long-term study on how racism and how oppression has had long-term impact on people's livelihood. So there's another article that I did read that I'm going to share with you that I'm not going to ask you to read right now. I'm going to share it with you so you have it because I found this article to be right up the alley of kind of this work. And it's called Why I Stopped Code Switching. And it was an article that I read about 2-3 weeks ago. And I thought it was really deep and powerful. And one thing that I took away from it, and I actually asked a friend of mine to read it. And when my friend read it, their response was, that article triggered me. And it might be because this person is constantly having to code switch to feel like they need to be accepted. So I have a quote for you all. Authenticity is a collection of choices that we have to make every day. It's about the choice to show up and be real, the choice to be honest, the choice to let our true selves be seen. That's Brené Brown. I'm going to switch back to the presentation. Bear with me, y'all. So foundational DEI. To me, this work refers to the action it takes to create an equitable, inclusive community filled with diverse people. At the foundation, DEI work should be critical to the existence of any mission, organization, and community, unless your organization does not support diversity, equity, and inclusion. This work must be ubiquitous. When relationships are mentioned, DEI should be always at that root. So let's use, for example, some things that I did since many of us were here in this space. Honoring one's name and getting it right. I asked for clarification. Many people asked for clarification when they spoke someone's name. I wasn't embarrassed of getting someone's name wrong because I'm now meeting you for the first time. If I met Johanna, do you say that H? See, I'm doing it right now. If
Johanna, I really appreciate
Johanna,
that.
I'm sorry to use you as an example without your permission, but if I knew Johanna for years and every time I saw her, I said, Johanna, and she might just say, oh, there's Brian, I've got to go the other way. Doesn't matter how bad I need to go in that direction, I'm going to avoid this person. So it starts with that name. Honoring people's heritage and contributions, everyone's. We all have something to share and contribute. Creating space for everyone's voice, even if the final decision goes to the C-suite. The bottom line is that DEI is a rising professional space in every workplace. It cannot be okay, we did our part because we just created a position attitude. So I want you all to think as you're listening in on this conversation, participating in this conversation, how do you see DEI as foundational? I want you to really process that. How is it foundational? So I created my own little DEI foundation checklist. One, and actually I don't even want to read this. I want you all to read this because it's helping you to get your voices heard right now. I'm gonna pick on some of you. And I want you to say one, and then I'm going to pick on someone else. So I'm going to start with Aviel. If you would read one, please. And don't forget to mute yourselves, y'all, because sometimes we forget.
Yeah. Number one, know your diversity. It is not just a difference of skin color.
And Pidipo, number two. And please, how do you say your first name? Because I feel like you shortened it for us.
Oh, Panda.
Panda. Thank you, Panda. If you'd read number two.
Oh, I lost the screen for some reason. I was trying to get it. Could you come back to me?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Jen, if you would read number two.
Don't just crowd out diverse people and brochure us, make us integral to the community at every level.
Thank you. Arliss?
DEI requires training at every level, involvement at every level, support at every level.
Michael?
Kayla?
Oh, increasing diversity cannot be adding Black, Brown, LGBTQIA people to staff and being done.
So if you're in that position, please hire new people. But is your community ready for that diversity you bring in? Daria?
Go back.
Value includes pay equity and treatment.
Is it Michaela?
Yes. Sorry, I grew up being called Michael, so I was like, did you mean me? Action cannot rely on how many book clubs one has. If you believe Black Lives Matter, then say Black Lives Matter. All lives will not matter until all lives are treated as important and valued like our white counterpart.
Thank you for reading that. Samantha?
You have to get back to it. See, I can see the people on the side, but I can't see the screen. Like the screen is sharing.
Okay, Elizabeth. Would you read number 7?
Sorry, I have to read this on my phone. Number 7, respect that we are all in different places on this journey and that discomfort will come with it. Please leave the fragility behind.
I really like the emphasis, Elizabeth. And she did not help me write this, but her emphasis was great. It was perfect. Tia, would you read number 8, please?
Do not tokenize the only one in the space to be the speaker of the missing identities.
Margaret, would you read number 9?
If relationships are important, then be honest about what you do not know.
Sometimes people refer to that as DK, don't know what I don't know. I'll read number 10. Lead with love, unconditional positive regard. Maybe I should have made that number 1. But the bottom line is that, to me, if you want to make it foundational, there's a lot of things you should not do, and there's a lot of things that we need to do. So sometimes I am a slide reader. Justice, equity, diversity, inclusion is about creating a culture so everyone can be their full and true self. And I spelled there wrong, excuse me. It is about acknowledging justice and injustice, providing individuals with what they need to be successful, and providing representation across identities so all will feel that they have a sense of belonging. It is not about centering a Eurocentric vision or who we all must be in order to be visible. It is not about assimilation. It's about, we're welcoming you into a space, then I welcome all of you. I don't welcome a part of you that fits what I want it to fit. I welcome all of you. All right, we have about 25 minutes, and we're going to take up some of that time by jumping into action rooms. We've just gone through a couple of things, and I want you all to kind of discuss these topics. So, first things first, in your rooms, you will share 3 ways you will be able to implement change to increase authenticity in your community, and that hopefully will help make DEI a foundational thing, not a checklist thing. See, I gave you a checklist of how to make it a foundational part of your community. That checklist is not of, yeah, I did that, I'm done. I did that, I'm done. So that's just like part of it to move through the next step. So here are my 3 ideas. 1, speak up. 2, creating policies that are equitable at the foundation. 3, move and create space that sets the example for the action you want to see. So when you're moving through the space that you work in, you're setting an example of how you want to see people behave, or you are creating the space, whether it's an affinity group, an ERG, an employee resource group, you are creating the space. And sometimes, as I lead a number of affinity groups, I tell students, I tell parents, I tell staff, faculty all the time, these affinity groups are to help those students who may feel othered. And I don't always say that part because I don't want to start with deficit thinking, but it's to help those students feel like they have a sense of community within a smaller group so that they can be their full selves within our larger community. It's almost a cheerleading squad. Come join us, learn some things about yourself, be able to speak about issues that you're facing, be able to celebrate Vice President Harris, be able to celebrate an identity that I never thought I would see as the Vice President, be able to celebrate those identities that you may not know because it's not being taught to you. So we're going to go into a breakout room. You each will have 2 minutes to check in with your 3 ideas. Total, the breakout room will last for 15 minutes. Tabitha, you have a question, comment, concern?
No, sorry, did I
Okay,
apologize.
No worries. I wanted to be attentive to your needs. All right, so we're going to go into those breakout rooms. Mr. Roberts, if you would, he will magically pull you away. You may have to click join. You might just go right into a room, and in that room, create your 3 ideas. Give each other an opportunity to talk without interrupting, and then you will switch. And we're back. I want to thank Miriam for her few words before we went back to our main room. So I hope all of you had an engaging conversation with each other about your 3 ideas. And I know I learned from my room. I think my room was the best room. No offense. I'm kidding. Uh-oh. I see some competitive looks out there. So one of the things that that I wanted to create space for is Q&A, questions, discussion, and answers. We have about 5 minutes. This time has flown by. What has come up for any of you, all of you, as you've participated in this presentation today? And please unmute and just be careful with not trying to talk over anyone else. All right, let's see. I love the networking going on. Anything come up for anyone?
So that, I think the person that's posting that to create a network was in response to our last few comments that we were talking about supporting this work and supporting the person holding the position of DEI director and what they need from the school and from the rest of the faculty. So I think we were about to talk about affinity group for the faculty, and I always found that affinity group for the faculty of color tends to be a time for faculty of color to just kind of like find some sort of peace and just connect with each other, and just it feels like a way to like relieve some of the stress that comes with this work.
Yesterday was National Racial Healing Day, and I participated in a session for about 3 or so hours. And to be in Black affinity space, Black Caribbean, Indigenous affinity space is healing. To hear people tell me things that I've experienced directly. I speak from the I, but when I hear people say things that I've experienced as well, it's like, well, I gotta be careful speaking from the we, but it makes me feel human. It helps me to feel like I am not so paranoid, that I am being affirmed. So I attempted to create DRGs or adult affinity spaces at work, and occasionally we've gotten together. And I think people are sometimes fearful of getting together in an all Black or an all Latino, Latinx, all particular race or ethnicity group, because they want to just be able to feel, in my opinion, like I'm here for everyone. Like, yeah, we are here for everyone, but when do we take care of ourselves? If you're anything like me and you experience harm through what people like to refer to as microaggressions, which are not micro, then when are we going to take care of ourselves in the space that we spend a lot of our time? When are we going to connect and feel a sense of belonging? So I appreciate that. Anyone else? I'm watching the clock. I don't want to talk too much. I've already talked a lot. Come on, let me hear it. What ways can you create foundational work? Like DEI is a foundational tool, is authentic relationship. What things came up for you in this presentation? Did we need 2 more hours? I don't know if anyone wants to be on Zoom for that long, but do we need more time?
I was just thinking about what Jen was saying, like how the weight is always on her shoulders, and just, I think that one thing that I push for is collaborative work so that it doesn't just fall on my shoulders, like creating a committee that will support you and, kind of spreading the work out so that more people are responsible and you're not burnt out. I know it's difficult, but I think having support or creating a supportive team is really, really helpful.
Thank you, Tia. I know we're about at time, and one thing I'll share really quickly is when I started working at my school, one of the first things I said at a all staff faculty in-service was, if I'm expected to do this work on my own, then I don't want to do it because it's not sustainable. It's not going to work. And I was really feeling myself in that moment when I said that to everybody, because I really was trying to set the bar high that this is a collective effort. Margaret, you're going to have just about the last word if you have a few seconds. I thought you were going to raise your hand, Margaret.
Yeah, I don't want to take people over. I was just thinking a lot also about what Jen said about being tired sometimes. And the first affinity group I was ever in was when I first started teaching. My first job out of Teachers College was at Friends Seminary. And the school counselor asked me to come be a part of something called the Banana Splits, because he heard I had divorced parents. I could be, And it's something I would have never thought of. So sometimes it's so hard to be the one to ask, and that's an extra pressure. But I was sort of honored to be included that way and didn't understand. And now I've been in many other affinity groups since then. But sometimes people don't even realize they have the power and they can lighten your load. And I don't want to add to asking, but I'll say as a teacher, I was grateful that he included me that way because I didn't know, especially young teachers sometimes. They don't necessarily know what their role can be. So.
Thank you, Margaret. So I want to say to everyone, thank you for your time. I really appreciate your input. I do wish we had maybe 30 more minutes in this session because there's so many more things that we could talk about. I am Brian Williams, the head of inclusion and community life at Sacred Heart School of Chicago. I share my title with you last because when you're in authentic relationship, it shouldn't be the title that helps you connect. It should be the individual. I shared a lot about who I am to start so that we can connect on a human level. So thank you all so very much for joining me. This has helped to make my 2021 even more successful. I'm counting the days. So thank you so much. Be well, be safe. Take care of yourself and others.